everyone. Welcome to our Diploma of Youth Work information session. My name's Randall and I work with the career advisory team here at TrainSmart Australia. And today we're going to be hosting our Diploma of Youth Work information session. So what to expect today? So we're going to learn a little bit more about TrainSmart Australia and what we do here. We're also going to explore, what is a youth worker, and we're going to give you tips on how we're going to look at a career path, the career path of a youth worker, and some of the qualifications that you need and key skills and knowledge you'll need for a career in youth work. You also get to hear from our trainer Samantha Irvine, and she will be taking over most of this presentation today. And we'll later also go through a course overview of the Diploma of Youth Work, types of assessments that you'll be looking at. And we also have a little section where we're going to go through a case study scenario taken from our Diploma of Youth Work course, so you get a better idea of how the Youth Work course actually runs. And also at the end, we have a section for questions and answers as well. So a little bit about TrainSmart Australia. So we've been a leading education course provider since 2005. In 2007, I believe, we made a change in direction in terms of the courses that we specialise in. So we primarily focus now in counselling, community services, alcohol and other drugs, mental health and youth work courses. And all of our qualifications are nationally approved, accredited and recognised by government and industry bodies. And since the time that we started, we've had over 20,000 graduates that have graduated from our courses. So a lot of students choose to study with TrainSmart Australia because they have lived experiences in counselling or in youth work or in mental health, and they want to make a career out of those lived experiences, or take what they've learned from those lived experiences and point them towards a meaningful career. We also have a lot of students that already work in the mental health industry who are just looking for another qualification to upskill. And we also have students seeking a career change. So, we get a lot of stories where students who, they're working a job and they decide they want to do completely different, and it's all about giving back and helping other people. So we get a lot of students who, completely do a 180 and decide to change careers and study counselling or a youth work course with us. Students also enjoy online personalised training. We have a huge emphasis on one-on-one support throughout our courses. We also support students in finding work placement opportunities. And students also love the fact that we have experienced trainers on staff at TrainSmart Australia. So all of our trainers all have personal experience and all have work experience in the allied health industry. And a lot of students benefit from that in their studies. And students also benefit from our flexible funding options. Two, I'd just like to highlight is our vet student loan funding options, which just allows students to study for their course with no upfront costs and pay after they start earning. And also our WA government funded courses as well. Like I mentioned before, we like to highlight the exceptional student support that we deliver here at TrainSmart Australia, all the way from providing students with free one-on-one career advice to ongoing support throughout their studies, and also the opportunity to join online virtual classes as well, all across Australia. And major emphasis we also place on students is, the reason why we're here is we want students to become job ready. So from the time of giving free career advice to feedback in your assessments, through the practical assessments that you do at TrainSmart Australia and the work placement component. To summarise what we do here, it's all about giving practical experience for students so that they can become job ready. And now I'd like to hand it over to Samantha, who will be taking over this presentation.
Thanks, Randall. So my qualifications are the Diploma of Early Children's Services, Certificate 3 in Education Support, Certificate 4 in Child, Youth and Family Intervention. So I currently live in South Australia and have worked for the Department of Child Protection for about 12 years. Throughout this time, I have worked as a support worker, a youth worker, an access worker and a team leader. I've been a part of the Royal Commission here on child abuse in South Australia 5 years ago to help assist the industry with changes. I originally started my career in early childhood at a centre. I was 14, and through looking after children, I noticed there were more and more children put into state care every day, and I wanted to help. This is when I decided to study, and I knew where my heart belonged in this industry. During this time, I have worked with many children from many backgrounds. I've assisted with behaviours, been a part of progress meetings, been a positive advocate for children when they couldn't find their voice. And this is the most important to me. Every child needs a voice, and if they can't speak, I wanted to learn to help them through that transition. That was probably the most biggest thing that I've had to deal with in my career, is being that voice for them, especially part of the Royal Commission. Why we need more youth workers? Well, a quarter of all adults report having been physically abused as children. That's massive. 41,000 children under age 15 years of age die from homicide. Children aged 14 to 17 are the highest percentage of victims. Children aged 0 to 12 have had one or more child protection notification made against them. And that can be from usually from a childcare centre or from a school. Usually the first ones that make those reports, because they're the ones that are with those children the most. Emotional abuse was the most commonly reported primary abuse. It used to be sexual abuse, because obviously back then we needed more evidence, but these days we've done a lot of study in emotional abuse and we're able to actually identify it now, which is great, being able to identify it. But you know, emotional abuse is not something that anyone should be taking lightly. Some people aren't even aware that it's happening to them. This is just the many reasons we need youth workers. It is very highly stressful industry, as you are dealing with children who are traumatized. So in the Diploma of Youth Work, you get to learn how to work in a legal and ethical manner with people from within a diverse community. You'll meet a lot of people from all different walks of life. You'll be able to help identify and support people with mental health and addiction needs, support young people to take collective action and express their needs. That's probably one of the most empowering, is being able to support people to be able to express their needs and to be able to know that they have a right. Developing and implementing youth-specific programs. So a couple of our units are specifically around that. So we get to dive into a couple of youth programs around WA especially that have done really, really well. And being able to, pull that to bits and work out exactly, the funding, all of that kind of stuff, the work that actually went into it and how successful it was. You guys actually get to have a look at, developing your own, and something that's important to you, you're able to expand on and use this as an example. So with this, youth workers help young people make positive changes in their lives and develop skills to make positive decisions in the future. So you're able to help them with accommodation, education, training and employment, and counselling. Not so much you doing it, but being able to refer them and support them in that way. So with this specific qualification, you could work in outreach programs or run a community program, especially for local governments. Provide a voice for youth on issues such as youth justice, health and employment. This course offers you a lot of different avenues to go into, which is absolutely fantastic, opens a lot of doors. You will assist children and young people to develop their social and living skills, which will help them transition successfully into the community or reunification, so going back to their families or reconnection with their families or other suitable care options. You also have the opportunity to assess and respond to their individual needs and ensure their safety as well as the communities. So as you're probably unaware, a lot of these children are unaware of what, I don't like to use the word normal, but what the expectations of the community is, because they haven't had the right or the correct upbringing of what's accepted and what's not accepted. So some career outcomes are a case manager, a coordinator youth and family services, a coordinator for youth services, a program manager. So what we were mentioning before, senior caseworker is when you're under the department or for a company that is works closely with the department. A senior youth worker, this can be in government housing or in a high school, because a lot of high schools, especially here in South Australia, have the youth programs involved now, which is fantastic. It's needed to happen for a while now. And obviously a youth team leader is where you will lead a team, just a small team, and be able to help them, help the young children that you're involved with. So how you will learn, how we run our classes is each class starts with a PowerPoint presentation that has the basics of the unit and things that we will learn during this time. So during the presentation, we discuss the content and the unit and discuss our points of view. Especially in my classes, I love to collaborate. There's some awesome conversations that come up because obviously there's difference of opinion, but we all agree that we need to, you know, come into the middle. And they're actually really, really uplifting, which is fantastic. So when the presentation is finished, we discuss the knowledge questions. So there's a list of knowledge questions, which you will come to know as assessment task 1. And then there's case study questions. We'll have a look at a case study after, I'll read through that. And then there's a practical assessment. So sometimes this is simulated, other times it's not. You will either present it to a class, so it might be a project within a PowerPoint. You'll have some criteria that you'll need to meet, but we'll all go through it as a class before that. And obviously with your assessment task 1 and assessment task 2, that gives you the knowledge that you need for the practical. All right, so what I was mentioning before about this is actually one of our case studies in one of our units. So Jenny's new husband, Dennis, seems to enjoy the opportunity to be a stepfather to her two children, aged 3 and 5, when they first moved in with him. Over the following 18 months, though, as Jenny and Dennis attempted to have their own child, Dennis's behaviour changed. He began limiting Jenny's access to money, took her car keys, and wouldn't pay for the car to be serviced. He started monitoring her use of social media and the web. He also started being aggressive towards her and the children. Following an incident witnessed by the oldest child, where Dennis knocked Jenny's head on the edge of an open cupboard door, the 6-year-old tells her kindergarten teacher that she's worried at home, that she has seen Dennis hurting mummy. She is scared of being hurt by him too, and the teacher contacts child protection, and child protection worker interviews the family. Using an assessment tool The worker, Ellen, concludes that the well-being and development of the child are being negatively impacted by family violence. So in here, in class, what we would usually do is go through each point of view, all of the details, so the details of the age of the children, what is actually happening here, being able to recognize it. So we would recognize that there is obviously control, physical abuse and emotional abuse just by reading this at the top of my head. And then we would continue on to the questions. So Ellen makes a separate appointment to discuss the situation with Jenny and verifies that physical and emotional harm is occurring to the children. The worker contacts the local family violence service to refer Jenny to the children. At Jenny's first meeting with the family violence service, a comprehensive risk assessment is done and a safety plan is created. Jenny discusses options for further support with the family violence service worker, but she is scared of her husband's reaction. Jenny tells Ellen that she's too scared to continue with the service. Ellen talks instead with Jenny about emergency accommodation options. Jenny does eventually move with the children, into her sister's house while she decides what steps to take regarding her relationship. She returns to and leaves the relationship with Dennis 3 times in 1 year. The children are provided with a variety of supports, including counselling and group support for the 5-year-old child. Ellen encourages Jenny to re-engage with the local family violence service and is increasingly frustrated that she refuses to do so. This is common in these areas. It takes a lot for somebody to leave an abusive partner, whether that be male or female, because of the emotional hold that they have over them. And this gives us a good overview of what actually happens. Dennis's violence recommences each time Jenny returns, and she eventually calls the police. As both police and the family violence service operate within a consistent risk management framework, Jenny's level of risk is well established and understood by all services involved. Case planning meetings attended by Jenny are held to identify and review support needs, expectations, goals, and timelines. Case management responsibility resides with Ellen on behalf of Child Protection, and Ellen organises for the Family Violence Service and the Police Family Violence Advisor to also attend the planning meetings, along with Jenny's sister and representatives from the children's school. Safety plans are developed and kept up to date for everybody. So as you see here, there's a plan moving forward for Jenny and her family. And obviously, when she decides to go home, then the children have the safety backup of everyone else around them. And they're totally aware of what's happening now, which is like the everyone else around them, the police, and all know exactly what's happening. So these are an example of some of the questions. So give 2 signs that indicate Jenny feels that there is a threat to her own safety. Obviously, Dennis, when going home. Give 2 signs that indicate Dennis may pose a threat to harm others because he is violent and he's done it before. So list 2 ways that indicate that child protection worker Ellen has listened empathetically to Jenny's current crisis situation. So she listens because she has put a lot of things in place. She's repeated what Jenny has said, and she's put that into place straight away. When Jenny had said that she was not feeling safe and would have to go home because she has nowhere else to go, then she offered emergency accommodation straight away. And this is an option. So how could Ellen work with Jenny to reduce immediate danger to risk for others? Basically, that's what the safety plan is for and the case management plan, and that's the reason why everybody is involved in that. so that everyone that's involved, so the children, all the stakeholders, so for example, Jenny, the children and everyone else and the sister are aware of what needs to happen and how. So the units covered in this course are fundamentals of community service. Even though this is youth work, community service is still the umbrella over everything, which is great because a lot of it does cross over, because we're all about allied health and being able to help people. It is all connected. Developing service programs, like I had mentioned before, legal and ethical. Unfortunately, whatever qualification you study, you can't get away from that because it's obviously everywhere we go. Develop and review case management. So exactly what I'd mentioned before, that is basically an example of case management where we will go, if there's a particular unit, we'll go through case management plans and so forth, explaining bit by bit on how to do that and how to provide the information required. The client assessment, we'll have a look at, what signs to look for, what's happening around them, how to specifically ask questions and so forth. We will have basic counselling skills. Obviously, once again, we'll have the right kind of questions and the right way to ask, and being aware of body language is another big one. But being able to refer somebody when it's out of your scope is very important too. Professional practice, once again, being able to provide that. So the course that we've just started not long ago is in accordance with being able to be job ready, which is fantastic, because that offers another thing that we're able to offer our students. Project management and budgets is another one that we will discuss. It's actually part of the program unit that we go through. There's a few there, and it actually builds up to that. So if you're worried about, not knowing everything, you don't need to know everything. This is why we're here, and the information provided is able to help you, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. And it's all about being able to scaffold your learning and grow. Whereas a lot of my students are worried in the start, and then they start being independent and handing things in, and they realize afterwards that they've come a long way. So don't forget that you can do that too. Is this me? Sorry, Randall. Yeah. Okay. Work placement. So this course contains a minimum of 160 hours. I will say that I will emphasize it's a minimum, because there's a lot of students who need a little bit more, sometimes 200, sometimes 220. And the reason why is because we can't put a time limit on the stuff that happens. So you need to be able to say, okay, yes, this person has passed this, or this person has experienced this while on placement. And if that doesn't come up, then obviously we can't sign you off on that, or they can't sign you off on that. And there's certain things that actually need to happen in person and not simulated. So you will need to undertake your work placement in an organisation involved in the delivery of youth work services to clients. And our youth work team is very good at that, having a list. The workplace will need to be, so there's a lot of policies and procedures, and being able to refer, and they work with different companies, which is awesome. So you're able to build those relationships within your area. The specific requirements of the workplace are outlined in the work placement booklet. So in that work placement booklet, which you will receive after you completed the first 10 units, then you're able to look at work placement. The work placement team provides you with all the answers that you require. So your work placement support person will ascertain whether the workplace is appropriate. This is basically where they give you a call, give the placement a call, and they chat to them about what's involved and so forth. Depending on the COVID rules, at the time, whether they meet them over Zoom or face-to-face, to discuss what their company is about and exactly what happens there. So once again, I'd already said, completing your first 10 units. After that, you'll get a badge to say that you've completed your first 10 units and you're now able to apply for work placement. So this ensures that you develop a good foundation of knowledge prior to entering the workplace. Obviously, we don't want to send you into workplace unprepared. And I know that some people work better hands-on, which is great, but it's great to have that knowledge behind you. So whether that be book knowledge or just a basic knowledge, to be able to have that behind you in regards to child protection and so forth, and emotions and what to look for. So that's the basis we use that for.
Great, thanks, Samantha.
No worries.
So for anyone who's interested in finding out a little bit more about our youth work course or any of our courses here at TrainSmart, what we do offer is free career advice. So we have a team of dedicated career advisors who are solely responsible for taking people's calls and finding out more about our students' career goals, their study aspirations, and we work with you to find out what the right course is for you, and we'll help you along that career path. So for anyone who is interested in finding out more about our courses or where they lead to, university pathways, funding options, the best person to speak to, or the best people to speak to would be our career advisory team. So we can offer you one-on-one personalised career advice. We can discuss your previous work experience and how that kind of factors into your course. And like I mentioned, we can look at what that career path actually looks like for you and help you in planning that. There's many ways you can get in contact with us. You can call us through our 1300 number. You can chat online with us or also communicate via email. For those interested in enrolling with TrainSmart Australia, we've got a 3-step procedure. The main thing, the first step would be to just make sure that you meet the academic prerequisites. So to enter into a diploma course with TrainSmart Australia, you'll need to provide an Australian Years 12 certificate or an Australian Certificate 4 qualification or higher. But if you don't have either of these, it's not the be-all and end-all. We do provide other pathways into this course. We do offer a free learning literacy and numeracy test. And on successful completion of that test, you can gain entry into our diploma course and any diploma course across Australia. You'll also need to provide proof of identification. So we need some basic ID documents that prove your citizenship status and also your address and also your proof of previous studies as well. And then once you've compiled all those documents, it's just as simple as submitting an application online on our website. And from there, our career advisory team will follow you up and we'll guide you through the next steps of becoming enrolled into one of our courses. So that concludes today's presentation. We'd now like to open up a time of questions and answers, or a Q&A session. And before we've started this meeting, we've actually asked and we put out a couple of questions out there to the public, and we've got a couple of questions that I'd now like to ask Samantha for some help with some of these questions. So the first question we've got here is, what is the difference between a Diploma of Community Services and the Diploma of Youth Work?
So the difference between Diploma of Youth Work and Community Services basically is that with community services, usually aimed at, case management and so forth with adults more than anything. It's more to do with more in the community. So, taking elderly out, or, you know, support more than that way, in that way, rather than youth. So you're dealing with traumatized teenagers and young children. You are still dealing with adults, so for example, their parents and you know, guardians and so forth, but that doesn't fall as much heavily on you in youth work, because your main concern obviously is the youth that you're dealing with.
Just another question we got was what checks do you need to enroll into this course? So
the easy question is that it'll depend on the state that you live in, but you will need some kind of a working with children's check before you start placement and so forth, because obviously we need to make sure that you're all good and safe to be able to walk into that organisation and work with children or the youth or the community itself. So it really depends on the state. So here in South Australia and WA, you're required to have a working with children's check.
Another question that we got is, so for students who kind of fall behind their course, what kind of support can they get? Or yeah, if they fall behind.
Yeah, no worries. So when we first start the course, obviously there's due dates set for all the 21 units, and I do that with a bit of a spreadsheet. I've got a little thing that does it for me. So we just be able to keep an eye on that. We have what we call DOS, which is the Dean of Studies. So each student is given allocated a Dean of Studies, and there's, I think, 4 right now. And they basically check in with the students every 4 weeks to make sure that, you know, they're submitting the units that they require, which is 2 units a month. That is a requirement. So they will give you a bit of an update each month and send you through an email of the units that you've submitted or the assessments that you've submitted and how many you're behind, or whether you're in you're, you know, up to date. And that is all, I'm included in all of that also, which is great. So then Stuart, say for example, the DOS, one of our DOSes is called Stuart. So Stuart and I will then work out a meeting, whether a Zoom or phone call, depending on what's needed for you, what's best for you. And then we can meet up and work out what supports that we can help you with. So for example, it might be that you meet with Stuart once a fortnight because you are having trouble with some IT, or you might need a reminder. I have lots and lots of different dates and so forth on my calendar for different students, just to be able to send an email and say, hey, you've got a unit due at this time. Obviously, I only need to do that for a few, but that's, you know, with some students have a lot going on in the background. So that's lots of different things that we can offer. We also have an IT support team, which is fantastic. A lot of our students do use that a lot. I also run a weekly class. So it's for 2.5 hours where anyone can join, any of my students, and come in and ask any questions. It doesn't matter what unit you're up to or anything like that. You can come in and book a practical or a simulated practical. Or if you need, so for example, for some of the units that we need to do practicals for, you need 5 to be able to present a project to. So you can plan to do that on a Wednesday. So that works really, really well with us. And people just pop in and out, come and say hi, come and hang out and stuff like that. So it's really great. It makes you feel like you're connected to, which is fantastic, because obviously online study can be quite isolating sometimes, which is I've found a lot of students have found quite hard, especially during COVID. So
just to add to that as well, Samantha, also wanted to just highlight our simulated practical service that we offer at TrainSmart as well. Yeah, so it's just a so for students who can't attend those weekly classes but have remaining practical assessments to complete, you can actually use a book-in service that we've made called Simulated Practicals, where you can book in a time with a trainer and in many cases a paid actor that simulates a role play scenario that you've come across in your unit. And regarding those booking times, they're quite flexible.
It's a fantastic service too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great opportunity to get feedback
Yeah.
and also catch up on any of your remaining assessments as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Samantha, did you have any final parting words that you'd like to maybe send off our audience here for today?
Well, I want to say thank you for inviting me, Randall. It's been fantastic. Secondly, come and join us. Come and come and join and learn how to be a youth worker. And it's fantastic. You'll meet a lot of people, and the groups and the individuals that we meet are really great. And they're still going and still contact each other now to these days. So you have lifelong contacts. It also opens up a lot of different doors in not just in WA, if you are from WA, but from other states also, which is fantastic because just from working for TrainSmart, I've been able to assist students across different states, and I'm an SA. So, which is, absolutely amazing. So come and join us. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Samantha.
No worries.
Awesome. And we'll end the meeting here now. And thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to hear from you guys again soon.